Hey guys, so today we'll discuss on how to set up React and Node.js applications on a Vagrant machine. So the quite essential reason for making this video is not to teach on React or not to teach Node.js, but this is a small video that would help us to have a development environment that doesn't pollute our local machine. So if you are on a Windows or a Mac, and if we start installing Node.js and then other few technical installations that are needed to make help us build Node.js or React.js applications, what really happens is there are instances where we might end up having a polluted local environment and we are forced to uninstall a lot of applications or zboot it such that the system comes up as a fresh installation. And that has been a challenge for me for quite some time after I have these uh, trainings that I did for my own learning. And this is when I have thought that I should use some experience from my previous employers where I worked for, and then I started learning how to set up a virtual environment like a VM where I can spin it up, do some stuff, get out of it. If it gets corrupted, which is polluted with a lot of stuff that I don't want, I just destroy it and then get back to my work. So that's the essence of getting the whole thing from this video. So without any further ado, let's get started and see how and what I have been trying to say in the last few minutes of this video. So I'm in my Windows PowerShell. So this PowerShell 7 is an installation on top of Windows 10. Remember, I haven't upgraded to Windows 11 yet because there have been few challenges with Windows 11 when I tried it. So I did a factory reset and I moved back to Windows 10. So Windows 10 doesn't have a Unix shell. So what I did is downloaded this PowerShell 7, which we can find it. Let me open up the browser. Alright, just give me a minute. I think my mouse got stuck. Sorry, my keyboard got stuck. Seems to be working now. PowerShell using Unix commands. This is what I have searched for. Okay, this is Spring, so let's go to Linux. So PowerShell with Unix commands, and then I kind of found. Okay, I don't know how did I end up there. PowerShell 7. Yeah. Oh, this is a huge talk. So I was kind of. Okay, yeah. This is the one that I've pulled up, and that's the reason why we kind of have 7 to 5. So I'll put this link in the description. So if you want to experience Unix commands within the Windows system, you can use this. So if I say ls, I have all that. So jumping back into the discussion, so I have set up Vagrant. So Vagrant oops. So Vagrant is a place where you can set up your development environments which can be carried just with a configuration file, rather than having every machine go through a huge documentation of steps where we install all the tools that are necessary to bring up a development environment for a uh, new application that we want to build. So the latest edition that we have in my system as well is 2219. So Vagrant is a tool for building and managing virtual machine environments in a single workflow. As I was mentioning, it's kind of a VM that we're trying to build, but this is a tool that will help us spin up a VM in our local machine, which is pretty easy, and with just one command we can do this. And you might be asking a lot of questions on why would we need Vagrant and other provisioning things, but that's all there in this documentation. So what I would jump into is, how do I set up Vagrant? So before we can have Vagrant, we need to have a virtual machine. So Vagrant can work on few of those virtual machine providers, like the VirtualBox, VMware, and other cloud provider as well, which can spin up, which can have that virtual machine provisioning capabilities. So for ease of use, I have installed VirtualBox from Oracle. So here it is. So, and then you can see that my VirtualBox is running an instance with some name, and it's on Ubuntu. So how did I get to this is the one that I'm going to talk to you now. So once you download the VirtualBox from VirtualBox. So I was researching on why should I use a VirtualBox versus WSL. If you are curious why would I want to choose a VirtualBox than a WSL, I do have a WSL in my system. I have Ubuntu 22 point something on my 2204. I can even use this rather than directly using a Vagrant. It would still help me get my work done. It's as if it's as good as having a Unix system, and this is possible because I was using WSL, which is Windows subsystem for Linux. However, I based on my experience, as I was telling you, I would choose to have a VirtualBox. So I downloaded VirtualBox 6.1, and then I downloaded Vagrant. So once the Vagrant is installed, we have a couple of things we can check. So I can say Vagrant -version. So we have 2219 as our version. So what essentially a Vagrant does. So Vagrant, once I install Vagrant, it's not gonna provision anything for us. So Vagrant has to be bundled with something, right? And that bundle is the Vagrant box. Essentially, it's like having an ISO downloaded into your system and then installing it using your VirtualBox, if you would have ever done that. So once that gets done, you would have to go get a VirtualBox. So what's the operating system that you want to have with your VirtualBox? You can choose Ubuntu, you can choose CentOS, you can choose any other virtual machines, that OS that you want to have. So if I want to go, I would choose to say Vagrant boxes. So it's essentially just like having a multiple OS in your virtual box. So we can see there are a lot of boxes. So there is Debian, CentOS, Ubuntu. Say for example, say CentOS. There are 1,000 or more, I believe, here. So CentOS, if we go into these are the official CentOS virtual boxes. So it means if I am on CentOS 8, it means that it's CentOS 8 OS capable virtual box that you're going to spin up. If I'm saying it is CentOS 7, it's going to be CentOS 7 capable OS system that's gonna be built using our Vagrant. So having said that, there are a lot of other things. Ubuntu as well. So I did have experience working on CentOS 7, so I wanted to have this personal time, explore around Ubuntu. So I downloaded Ubuntu Focal, which is Ubuntu 24 for 2004, and that's on the 64-bit. So if we look at the documentation, there are a couple of things that needs to be there in your working folder. So any folder that you want to create, say for example, I'm somewhere here, so I want to go into documents. I have few folders here. If I would choose to say, hey, can we make a directory named my VMs, and say my VMs. So this is a clean box, and if I believe that this is going to be my working directory as a developer, what this essentially says is that I would have to have a Vagrant setup done here. So how do I do it? So the whole heart of having an operating system or a development environment on top of Vagrant means you need to have a Vagrant file. So that's what the Vagrant documentation says. So because I already chose, I know that my OS is gonna be Ubuntu 2004. I can simply I can go create a Vagrant file with capital V, or I can say, hey, you know what, go pull this up from the Vagrant boxes, which is a cloud box that's readily built for me by Ubuntu and is available there. Remember, it's just a bare metal OS that we're gonna have once we do this. So for being a beginner lesson and probably a few thoughts that I want to share with you all, I would say that this is the best choice. Like we have a clean folder, we don't have anything in this, so I would say, you know what, I want to run this command, Vagrant init to Ubuntu. I should have copy pasted that, but yeah, I think I copied it. I just highlighted Focal 64. So you see there are few steps that happen after we initiate this command in the system. So it says a Vagrant file has been placed in your directory. You are now ready to do a Vagrant up your first virtual environment. This is what we were talking about, right, at the start of this conversation. We want to have a virtual machine with Ubuntu as our OS in it. So it says, I placed this Vagrant file. So let's see what's there in that. So let's see what's there in our clean slate folder that we created. So it just has a Vagrant file. There's no extension to it. It's just Vagrant file. So let's check what's there in that. Just got Vagrant file nano. Oh, I'm still like, I don't have nano. Okay, we'll open this up in code. Yes. So this is the Vagrant file that we have, and this has few lines. There are a lot of things that are commented out, and they are necessary as and when we progress on building a virtual environment. So for now, consider that the most important things that we're gonna be looking at is what's the machine that I want. It's It's the same thing that we installed, right? It's Ubuntu 2004. So every Vagrant file starts with this configuration. It says, hey Vagrant, on version 2 of the Vagrant, can you please configure? And the configuration is as follows. So if I want to say, for example, I don't want to check for any updates for my box for XYZ reasons, then I uncomment this and say, can we have this? This tells the Vagrant when this file is read for its configuration. Vagrant says, hey, the developer is asking me not to check for any updates on this box, so I won't pull anything from the cloud for this box even though it's there updated. So that's one thing. In the same way, if we want to forward one of the specific ports that we want from our guest into the host, this is how we do it. So the guest would be, once we up this virtual machine, the guest is gonna be the Ubuntu 2004 and the host is gonna be our Windows 10. So if I want to have, if I say, for example, I host some application at port 80 in my Ubuntu and I want to access this in the host in one of our browsers, this is how we're gonna do it. And it's the same way, like you can mention the public access of the host IP, and if you want to access the whole system as such as a private IP, this is how I would do it. So if I gonna go run React application at localhost 3000, once I do this, instead of saying localhost, I would say 192.168.33 and 10 colon 3000 in my host, which is Windows 10. So if I have a Chrome browser or a Safari or any other browser and I want to read that UI from the React that I wrote, React application that I built, I would choose to do so from this. So this is a good place to have it uncommented. Let's do that. And then you want to share a few folders. So hey, you know what? This folder from my host is going to be synced with this folder in the guest. So let's do that. And there is a provisioning that we're going to be doing. We'll take that up a little later. So for now we are good with this. And this is going to throw some data because it's going to ask if you would mind having that folder. So if we look at, we don't have that folder, so let's make data. So we have the folder data and it's going to be synced with this in the system. Alright, we are good here to start by constructing our virtual machine. Let's do that. For that we need to do Vagrant up. That's it. Wait for it to read the configuration file, start spinning up the machine, pull all the necessary things from the cloud, construct that OS, construct that virtual machine and give it to us. Now let's keep a watch on the system. You see this is getting built and it says it's powered off, which means it's switched off. It's getting built. You see, where is this? This is in my VMs. So this is our working directory as a developer that I chose to do so, and this is where it's getting built. You see, this starts running now. It says, importing the box, matching the MAC address, then tries to build the adapters, then tries to build the host, then pre-boots with some customizations. It's trying to create a private key. Sometimes there's an issue with the private key, so it would drop the private key and get it created for us. And if this is the very first time that we are gonna spin up this machine, sometimes we're gonna get this and we would say allow, and it's gonna be a headless virtual machine that's gonna get built for us. Great. Let's wait for that. It will take a couple of seconds, but let's wait for that. Alright, so as we guessed it, it kind of said that it's gonna replace the key. It kind of inserted, yeah, so it says the machine is booted and ready. This means that we are good to go there. And it says, you know what, your Vagrant in your machine and Vagrant data are your synced up folders, and then notify forwarded would change notifications on 29234. This is because I have installed Vagrant notification, iNotifications, iNotify, and that's the reason why this has come up. And of course it says that there's an issue with the operating system in the hardware, which we would rectify it, find an alternative in the upcoming videos. So what, oh, we have this now, what shall we do? Let's clear the screen, have it clean, and then Vagrant SSH, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna log into the system. Is the font size good enough? I don't know. Properties 24. That's too thick. Cool, so it says few of the IP addresses that it has. I'm fine having these IP addresses visible in the YouTube channel because this is just a Vagrant box. I can destroy it and it's completely safe. So if I say ls minus la, I have a lot of things, and then say cd/Vagrant because I know that this is synced up to the local. And if you see, we have our data folder that's there, we already created in our local. So if I gonna go into data folder, and then we have nothing here, make directory, say for example code base, and if we look back, so because we created this code base folder, if we want to verify if that's really replicating back into our system, we can verify that by going into our CD documents, and then we were in my VMs, we have our data folder, and then say ls minus la. What did it say? This. It says that the code base folder that we created inside our VM is available in our local machine as if it is our local folder. So let's place cd code base. We don't have any files. We'll touch index.js. Okay, touch is not there. Array, why am I using this? Okay, we'll do it from here. We'll touch it here, and then we'll see if we can. Let's touch index.js, and then if we look into this, we have our index.js in the host machine. So this is a great thing. So we might be having questions, what if I exit my system, would this file be gone? So what we can do is we'll log out. So the connection is closed, the system is still running, and we'll see we still have this file. So if I'm saying that, okay, I'll open this file in index.js, and I'll write some code, .log Eshwar, and save it. and if I go into my Vagrant SSH, so we actually wrote this piece of code in our local system. So if we see the current folder, the path is users HP documents, my VM's data and code base. So this is my local path, my local folder. But if I vagrant slash data slash code base and then nano index.js, we will see the same line is there in our application. And if we are got method const name is equals to Prasad and then save it, exit, it immediately reflects back. This is a two-way connection that we have, and the files get synced up. So you can probably run your code, write your so what this really means to me as a developer, right? That's the question that we're gonna have next. So the answer to this is that I can write code as if I'm writing that in my local machine. So I don't have any latency issues. I don't have any issues of having my server up continuously. Like, of course, you have to have your Vagrant running, but once your Vagrant gets up and running, this file is going to get synced up there. So it's as if you're doing your code in your local environment and still having to run that code in your virtual machine. So like running up it in AWS or Azure. So you have your local system where with Windows 10 or Mac, not polluted with any of your application development necessary tools or programming necessary installations. So that's essentially the reason why we have Vagrant. And in the next upcoming video, we'll discuss how we install Node, React. We'll take some examples. We'll find the challenges that we're gonna have when running on top of Vagrant. And thanks for joining. See you in the next video. I'm your Mr. Yes, and thanks for visiting us on NodeJSEveryday.com. Please shoot in your answers and questions at NodeJSEveryday@gmail.com. Thank you, and have a great day.